Oh boy, we are live.
Welcome back to another week. Good week. Welcome back to another good week.
Another good week.
Depends
on what angle you take. I think for the most part, it was a good week.
I mean, I think there's a lot of positives. It's like we could just write a script to have at the opening of this, which would be like a lot of positives, some things to work on. But it's a good week. It's like you called it. I mean, it's the week you called.
Yeah, it is.
So you should mentally be there. You should be like totally fine with this.
You know, I am actually fine with it. I have to say, I am legitimately fine with it.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's good.
But I am especially happy. Well, let's do our official.
Yes. Well,
I forgot. The Den of Thieves podcast.
I got way out of myself this week.
Yeah.
Yes, welcome to the Den of Thieves. This is Jordan. That is Cole. And we're here to talk about 100 Thieves for the next 70 minutes. Exactly.
Yeah, we've been pretty dead on with that time limit on accident. Yeah. Kind of awesome. You shoot low, you shoot for 50 minutes, you go for 70. That's what happens.
Exactly. So we're playing for 70. This will be a 90-minute pod.
I think this is a wild card. And you know why? Because we have this bad boy right here.
Box.
What's in the box, fellas?
Is it 3? Did they fit 3 in that box?
3 hoodies in this box. That's what we're going to start out with, I think, right?
Yeah, that's quite a modestly sized box for 3 hoodies.
This is a box of the famed Geography Hoodie that 100 Thieves sold out of in about, all sizes. It was like something like 11 minutes or something. But for most people, you were done in about 8 minutes if you didn't get your hands on them.
Jeez, I didn't realize it was that quick for all sizes.
Yeah, it was wild. It was an insane drop. But at the same time, if you are there and you have your credit card or you're logged into your PayPal or whatever, you can get it if you're there right when it drops. So I've done the past 2 merch drops for 100 Thieves and I've been successful both times. And it's fun. It's exciting. I am legitimately sorrowful for the people who were not able to get hoodies.
I think there's a lot of people at work. Some people asleep, I guess. I don't know.
Different parts of the world. Yeah. Who knows? The one thing I know is that I got my box.
That's it.
Now, I didn't want to open this box before the podcast because I wanted to prove to some people out there that this reaction was going to be genuine and
it's not canned.
Get a look at the packaging, because let me tell you, because it came in the box, I am not sure I have the super cool Tyvek packaging, the custom packaging that 100 Thieves had for some of those who got hoodies, particularly those who ordered just one hoodie. They came in this awesome packaging. I'm hoping that when we crack this box open, there's 3 of those in there, but we shall see.
Yeah, I haven't seen that at all, so I will be triply surprised.
Yeah, let's start cracking this bad boy up. But no, I've never done an unboxing video, nor am I set up to like, let's watch me open the box kind of stuff. But
switch to your other camera that's here. That
exactly, yeah. So I'm just gonna tear into it.
You've got you've got a box cutter there that's long, so you've sliced one of them in half. That's good.
Yes, a box cutter called a ballpoint pen that served its purpose. All right. So I am correct. There is not the super cool customized Tyvek packaging, which what we'll do, we'll throw a photo up on our Twitter of someone who had the cool packaging, because it's worth it. It was a very, very nice touch. Something they should be proud of. But instead, mine come in these just standard plastic packaging, the transparent stuff. So there's hoodie number 1. Hoodie number 2.
What sizes did you get?
So I got 2 larges and an XL and I am honestly not sure what size I would be. So for those watching, here's number 3, by the way. For those watching, I am 6'1", and I have a little bit of a chubby dad bod going. Not too bad, but I'll own it. So that I was told they fit true to size, but that they were kind of slim. At the same time, the size chart, I believe, was significantly wrong on the measurements, which we'll check here in a minute. So I took my normal size of large, but was a little bit hesitant that they would be super slim. So I grabbed an XL also. Came with these stickers in it.
Oh, there's my sticks.
That's right. Got to have the stickers. Got to throw 100 Thieves up everywhere you can think of. And that's it for the packaging.
Did you get you got stickers in one of the last drops, right?
I did. With my jersey drop, I got stickers as well. So we're going to start with the what I'm hoping will be my size, which is the large. And I'll crack this bad boy open. I'm going to take a look. So this is a 20-ounce terry cotton, which means it's pretty substantial. It's pretty heavy.
A nice summer sweatshirt you got there.
Definitely not a summer sweatshirt. Definitely a heavier one than that. So this is what it looks like.
Man, sharp.
Now, I will say on this, the printing quality of the geography pattern is very good. Just looking at it, I don't see mistakes in it. I see good coding. I don't see any cracking or anything that could have come with a kind of a weird printing material if the hoodie was folded up in a certain way. Right now, I'm checking to see for like loose threading anywhere, which is very common to see with new stuff. Now, this is one of their more famous subtle touches that they've done. Is my camera's never going to be able to focus that.
No,
this
never.
little 100 Thieves badge on the front, and on the inside, on the inside it says "Honor Amongst Thieves."
That's slick.
Pretty awesome.
It's fabric that's sewn to the front and the back. It wraps around.
That's right.
Cool.
Let's see. These were made in Los Angeles, I believe. The inside of it, yeah, gosh, I wish I could do a better job of like focusing on this, but yeah, it is that terry weave. Feels pretty soft out of the packaging. Sometimes this stuff can be a little abrasive the first few times you wear it, but it actually feels pretty good. So far I don't see loose threading anywhere. I do notice on these hoodie strings that they're not special, I would say. Like the little thing, it's frayed. It's not a finished end with like a metal tip or even a plastic tip or anything, which that's a little disappointing, but not a big deal. They've got their custom branding on the tag inside there. 100 Thieves, 100% cotton, made in USA, and with the Honor Among Thieves tag on the back.
Nice.
Yeah, so stitching looks great. I feel like every time I open something, I see loose stitching, even on really nice stuff. So that's a good sign. Now,
when you say loose stitching, do you mean like there's actually?
Yeah, you look along the seams where they stitch everything together, you'll see like a thread popping out or whatever, and it's never a big deal. It's not a threat to the construction of it, but it is nice to see that everything's finished neatly, which it looks like it is. Now I'm gonna check the chest measurement on this bad boy because, like I said, I have a sneaking suspicion that the sizing chart was a little inaccurate, which I think caused a little bit of problems for people. Some people were a little upset because they went strictly by the sizing chart and were stuck with hoodies that were significantly too small. Now for the large, they give a measurement of 50.25 inch around at the chest measurement, which depending on how they attach the sleeves could be legit. Though again, with the sleeve construction that I'm seeing, I don't think that's going to be the case. But let's take a look here. So mine is measuring Well, I have to eat my words a little bit, I gotta say. It is off, but it's at so that'll be 51 inches. So it's a little bit bigger than what they had down, which I'm surprised by. I thought it would definitely be too small. So we'll see how this thing fits when I put it on.
I was gonna say, it seems to me that being a bit small would be less of a problem. Or being a bit large.
Being a bit large, yeah, it would be less of a problem. Well, and again, you don't really know until you put the thing on. But that is, I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty large chest measurement for this kind of thing typically. So let's put it on. Let's see.
It's time.
Take off my headphones so I can't hear your dulcet tones. I apologize.
I'll just wave my hands.
I even showed the tag, so I'm sorry about that. They've got their special 100 Thieves embossed tag as well. It's pretty cool. All right, let's see how this thing fits. Okay. So I will say that the sleeves are pretty narrow, which might bother some people, but for me, they work pretty great. The length of the sleeves themselves are, in a word, perfect. The armholes are actually pretty high, which I'm genuinely baffled by this chest measurement that it still fits the way it does. They obviously did a lot of work to get that thing right. It does feel pretty heavy. Not the inside is nice and soft. It's going to be a hot hoodie. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But holy cow, man, I'm impressed.
That is not an easy bar to reach. So
yeah,
hats off to the Thieves team on that one.
Right, hats off to him for sure. Again, I'm clearly shocked that chest measurement was right. Very surprising to me, but they've clearly gotten that fit right, so I'm happy with that. So generally, I think like this is an oversimplification, right? But when you talk about the price point of this thing, because a lot of people are like $85 is a lot for a hoodie, especially if you're shipping internationally or whatever.
Yeah.
And the promise was that the quality would be high enough to justify it, right? Obviously, I'm just getting my first impression of it, so I can't tell you how it's going to hold up over time. But generally, when you price something, you're looking at three main factors. You're looking at the materials that you use. You're looking at the way that the materials are put together, so like the construction of it. And then you're looking at the design itself. In terms of the materials, I think the fabric is a solid medium quality. It's definitely better than your average merch. It's substantial. It's heavy. It'll probably hold up well over time if I had to guess. The construction of it, like I said, the seams are all clean. That was very good. The cut and everything works really well. It's very symmetrical. The printing on it is extremely well done. I think that's maybe the most impressive thing about it.
Yeah. Because just to kind of now, they print on every surface, right?
Yes.
It wraps around the hood. It's inside the hood.
All the way around. I'll stand up in a second. You can see it clearly. It's on the inside of the hood. So that's great. Now, the design itself, I think that the only real disappointment is these drawstrings. The drawstrings feel cheap. They feel like, something that you'd get on the most budget hoodie. That's not the biggest deal in the world, honestly. But I think it's something that at this price point, you should be providing something a little bit nicer.
Yeah.
Before this, I kind of had in my mind, like I was imagining what I thought, what I was picturing in terms of the quality that I would get. I pictured something like an American Giant hoodie.
I don't even know what that is.
I have American Giant stuff, and it's pretty well made, but I imagined it would be, that level of build quality with nicer fabric. And I think that is overall true, that the quality on it in terms of build is rock solid. It's not luxury. It's not a luxury item. The fabric is better than average for sure. The printing is amazing. I think that I heard Nade say something to the effect of, this is the same quality hoodie that you would pay like $150 for, or $200 even, for a known, brand. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think that the price point that they have on it is a good price point and a reasonable price point. I would not I would not compare this to say like an APC hoodie, which is going to run you in that, $150 to $200 neighborhood, or a Sunspell hoodie. It's not on that level. It's not that, but it is definitely worth the $85 price point. And I personally, because being a fan, I would pay a little bit more for it.
Yeah.
I am not super crazy about the design. I think it's cool, but it's just a little bit loud for what I typically wear. I wear more scaled back things. But I think for their demo, because I'm an old washed dude. But I think for the demo, it's very good. So one more time, I'll stand back so you can kind of see both sides of the hoodie again.
Yeah.
Here's front. And back. So you also get to take a look at my kids' toys back there. So hope you enjoyed that. So again, great product. Way better than any other esports merch that I've seen. In both the design, which, like I said, it's not fully my cup of tea. I think it's pretty cool, but it's not like I'm drooling over the design. But it's so much better than any other organization, and I think they did a really good job. And they're still new at this, but to hit this bar already with just a few drops under their belt, like they're really, really doing a good job. So,
yeah, how would you say it compares to the first round of stuff?
Well, I did. So I actually missed the first drop that had like the windbreakers and t-shirts and stuff like that, and the Atlas hoodie. I missed that, so I can only compare it to the jersey.
Yeah,
I thought pretty much the same. I actually think the jersey was a little underpriced, to be honest. It was about the same cost as this. I think it was maybe $80. I think they underpriced that a little bit. It felt rock solid again, and the fabric was nice, and the design was really cool. It's really different, but I really enjoyed it. And so I would have paid probably like $110, $115 for that jersey. So yeah. I think they priced it really well. With this hoodie, they're right on the mark. If you leave it up to me, they're right on the mark.
Well, this makes me excited to see what comes next.
Yeah, that's right. Rumor has it there's been some teases about some stuff on Nade's stream of something really, really cool that they can't talk about, which makes everybody crazy. Yeah. And then he gave a cream hoodie with a black 100 Thieves like this embroidered on it to Pokey on her podcast when he appeared on that. Yeah. And he kind of alluded to that possibly coming out. So hopefully that's the next thing. I will have my money waiting based off of this purchase. Sign me up. I'll be in line.
I wonder if they're going to do like From the Vault, which they've actually already used that branding for some 100 Thieves stuff.
Yeah.
You got to think though, they'll break out past designs at some point, right?
I hope so.
Like why spend, it just seems like it'd be a missed opportunity to spend so much time and energy constructing a nice piece of clothing like that. And then, I mean, I definitely get the drop approach. But like you've got that one in your back pocket now, right? Like another limited run would be, I'm guessing, well received by people.
Well, certainly for this hoodie and probably for the jerseys as well.
Yeah. I'm
guessing though, I mean, they definitely switched suppliers from their first drop. Right. So it may not be a feasibility to reissue that stuff. But on this hoodie, I mean, it's a good product and it's worth the money. Yeah. If they reissue it, make some better drawstrings, and you guys have hit a home run.
How much would you pay for better drawstrings? $5?
I mean, yeah, it's a small amount, but I just basically at this price point, you just expect something that's just a little bit nicer on the finishing. But they have to make a lot of choices, and particularly, like I said, the printing that is not easy to do. It's expensive. Yeah. They've done a good job of pricing this thing and keeping costs reasonable for the product you get. So again, 100 Thieves staff, hats off to you guys. It's good. It's good. I really like it. I look forward to it not being 100 degrees in Nashville so that I can wear it. And with that being said, I'm going to tee it back to you so we can jump into the action from this week while I take off this hoodie so I don't die sweating like a pig under these lights. So,
well, the lighting looks natural, but believe it or not, you do have some fancy lights going. So I get that. And I'll do like a really natural transition now. So there was also some League of Legends games this last weekend. And we're going to talk about the games now.
Woo!
You back?
I'm back. I'm back and ready in action.
Okay. So, 2 big games and a few things that we've learned from these games. I'm excited to dive in. I think we start from the top. It was TL 100 Thieves. This was the one that we were all waiting for. They've got to do
what? They've got to do what? I'm sorry.
They've got to just set the schedule every week. Like, there's no way they set the schedule in advance of when these games are played.
What do you mean?
Like, traditional sports, usually you can kind of you can look a few weeks out and see when a game is going to be, what time.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like we always have like a marquee spot. First game, like kicking off the show, wrapping up the show. I don't know.
I don't think that's an accident.
Maybe they just looked at it and they said, TL 100 Thieves is going to be a good game.
Yeah. I mean, you got two of the stronger brands.
Right. So anyway, we had another marquee spot. First game of the day. And man, we started off with a bang. So
I couldn't believe the start of this game. Well, let's back up. Let's talk about the draft.
Let's back up.
Okay,
so, but that's exactly what we said. We talked about this last week and we said, how are we going to open this game? So we opened it with a draft. We'll go through that. And then we'll get into the action.
As all games do, they begin with a draft. Someday took Mundo, and on Trundle, Ryu on Zoe, Cody Sun with Varus, which was kind of an unpopular pick in the end. Aphromu on Braum. And then on the other side for Team Liquid, Impact took Cho'Gath. Smithy took Kindred, Pobelter with Malzahar. Double Lift on Ash, and Ole on Tom Kench.
Yeah, and I mean, in some ways, this was a really bizarre game.
It was.
Yeah.
And the first bans that came out from Liquid, they set the tone for it to be weird because their first bans were Morgana, Swain, and Talia.
Yeah.
And so looking at that, I was like, what have they been seeing in scrims that we haven't? Do they know something that we don't?
Yeah. Well, those are, I mean, we've seen a Talia game. I mean, we've seen these champions show up. I don't know that we've seen a Swain, but that was kind of off the wall, and none of those are targeted up top either.
Yeah, so not targeted up top. They also don't seem like power picks for us.
Yeah, exactly.
I figured there must have been something going on in scrims that maybe they saw, and I was surprised that we turned around and let Zoe hang around.
Mm-hmm.
So again, they must have known something that we didn't. Fortunately, that allowed us to pick up Zoe for Ryu because, as we know, when Ryu gets on one of those mage technical mids, he usually shines.
He does. And I think, for in the meta right now, if you're starting red side, you have to ban Aatrox. You pretty much have to ban Nocturne. So really, starting red side, there's one flex ban that you get, and we spent that on Rakan. So yeah, it was interesting. And some of this is, I think if you come in with a strat that you want to do, and Swain can really bust it up, whether or not you've seen us dominate a game on it, it could be one that you just say, our strat pool is focused in these areas, and so we'll ban them out. I think it's there's kind of like some swagger in that too, in that with a team like Liquid, I'm guessing, we saw 0 ADC bans coming from TL, and I'm guessing that's the double lift effect, right? Where he says, I don't care who I play against, just, I'm going to win, so it doesn't matter. I mean, he had a pretty quiet game, though. He was 2-0-4.
Yeah, that's not super quiet.
I mean, it's not the best stat line on his team.
Yeah.
He didn't carry this game for them. Although I think with the Ashe, he had more valuable contributions with his arrow, the stun arrow, than
in the hawk shot.
And the hawk shot, man, people underappreciate the hawk shot, but yeah, kept them in the know.
Yeah.
So
well, let's back up and talk about that start, because I think that was the biggest thing from this game, right? So it was weird, right?
Yes,
like I don't see any other way to say it. It was just weird. I'm not sure what happened with Xmithy, but he started out so poorly. They were calling it maybe the worst start they've ever seen from a jungler.
Yes.
They
I don't see how you could disagree with that. I mean,
they got a kill on him and 4-buffed him. I mean,
and they chased him off another camp. Like Anda at one point walked in and discouraged him from actually starting to play League of Legends. He had to walk back down. You know, it was insane. I think that was maybe before he got killed, but
it was just unreal to see that start. Again, as you were saying, the big question was, how are we going to start if we have a weak early game?
Yeah.
What are we going to do here? And we came out with just this massive advantage in the start that you couldn't have asked for a better start.
Yeah. And it's like we need to start picking hairs here, where it's like we had a really, like, the strongest possible start you could have. You know, we had excellent I mean, basically they were playing with 4 people on their team for the first 3 or 4 minutes of that game. Hard to start better than that. So the difference, it feels like, is our start was as good as it could possibly be. And then early game, we just we took our foot off the gas a little bit. And
a little bit is an
usually it's like our early game is weak, and then mid to late game is where we really shine. So for this game, it was like our start was amazing, and then early game we dropped off, and then, you know, the rest of the game happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had some problems with some of the stuff that they were doing bot lane.
Yeah.
Because obviously, you know, Double Lift is going to do Double Lift, but also Xmithy, like, I need to go back and rewatch and see how Xmithy leveled up so quickly, because by level, I mean, he got to level 7 before Anda did.
Yes.
So he was 7 when Anda was 6 after that, you know, terrible start. So, I mean, I should go back and watch and see just how that happened, but he turned that into, you know, fairly repeated bot lane ganks that were just really hard to deal with. And Cody dropped pretty early, giving them an Ocean Drake. Double Lift had a really, really nice flash. We tried to counter gank. He had a really, really nice flash to dodge a pillar and paddle star combo. Double Lift is just good, man.
He is. Like, I think he's definitely the best ADC in NA. You know, and he's always in the conversation for best player too in NA. Which makes it all the more frustrating that that Team Liquid struggled as much as they did at MSI. Because it's like, man, if they can't do it, right? If he can't break off the plays against the other teams around the world, then what are our chances looking like? And I feel like that's where you kind of get this notion that NA is just weak, right? Which I think is pretty well established.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that was contributed to Anda getting caught and passed and experienced, which seems like a crazy thing to even say based on what happened, was he went for the Drake. He went for Infernal. So I think, you know, Xmithy probably caught 2 camps in that time, or 3 camps. And so that was a
good point.
That was I was thinking about that, and like, was that Anda? My guess is that was Afro or Ryu saying, hey, you can uncontested take Drake here. It's Infernal, get it. And I just feel like that's one of those calls that ended up in the long run. You know, we didn't have as much lane pressure then. He couldn't threaten as much because he had been passed at that point. So it was a call that we made, and I'd say in hindsight, it's probably easy to say like, hey, we could have put a lot more pressure on bot lane. You know, we really could have bullied them out, but we didn't.
Yeah, and I mean, Infernal Drake is Infernal Drake, so it's always good to lock that up. But
yeah,
maybe it was a case where they just thought that no matter what they would do, Double Lift would come through, so they might as well focus elsewhere. And it's worth mentioning that even though Xmithy caught up really fast, we still didn't play like that bad, right? Like things didn't really take a steep downward turn, in my opinion, until Anda got caught taking Rift Herald.
Yeah.
it was kind of messy. I think that double lift, I mentioned his hawk shots earlier. Double lift's hawk shots are so good. He seemed like he has this intuition about where someone is going to be on the map.
Oh yeah.
And he was using his hawk shots to confirm that. And that just revealed that Ando was not in a position to contest some of the things that they were going to do.
Yeah.
Over and over again.
Right.
So that may have been low key. One of the things that really turned it was just them knowing where Ando was all the time.
Yeah. That doesn't show up on a stat sheet. Or it might show up in vision, I guess. I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't know how hawk shots are counted in vision
score. Probably not. Totally though. And you know, I looked at the gold graph for this game, and it was a really interesting gold graph. We were ahead gold by 2.5K up through something like 20 minutes. I could be off on that, but basically it was that point at which they got the Baron on us, and then they swung it basically 5K, and even after that we stabilized it. You know, so the several minutes between their first Baron and second Baron, we kept the gold basically flat. So it was one of those games where it's like I think we were playing our game, right? Our macro was good. It wasn't like we were continually losing hold of it. And then there was the Baron there to blow it open. I mean, the Baron still kind of blew it open, but we weren't losing the game continually through that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a good reminder, because it's easy to get down on another loss to TL, especially after the start that we had, and we're just giving up that advantage.
Yeah.
It's easy to feel that way, but it is a good reminder. I mean, I'm going through my notes and seeing, you know, that it's really didn't seem like it was a total loss, you know, at this 20-minute mark. We got bot turret down right before 20 minutes. We had pressure on mid. Ryu was doing Ryu stuff again. Like he was playing great. And we had another massive contribution from tier 1 bot turret again, who refused to go down. I don't know how many weeks in a row we're going to see our heroic bot tier 1 just standing in there with like no, I don't HP, whatever you want to call it, left. But
like any good carry, there's always a team behind it. It's Cody and Afro, man. They play well in lane. They don't give up lane. Those guys do not lose lane easily. And I'm going to give them some credit for that. I think Turret still deserves a shout out. But
yeah, I think the first Den of Thieves t-shirt should be a 6-man award with picture of the bot turret tier 1.
Seriously. Oh, yeah. With a sliver of health.
Yeah, just like the smallest percentage.
And just like an army of dudes, minions. Just an army of minions coming down.
Yeah.
And maybe Cody's son standing in between the two of them, because that's what happens. That's what happens.
Well, they eventually got it down, and like you said, the Baron really turned the game. And the thing that earned them the Baron was that insane flash ult from Poelter, right?
On the Malzahar. Whenever I play Malzahar, it just doesn't look like that, man.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And it won't, so don't try. But, you know, he did the flash ult over the wall around the Raptors, you know, and
beautiful. He had his shield up, so when the pillar came, didn't do anything.
Yep, and that was absolutely the thing that earned him the Baron, and in my opinion, turned the game. Someday was not, I mean, he was playing just fine.
Yeah.
But he wasn't as impactful as we've seen him be.
Yeah. He finished zeros.
Yeah, he finished straight zeros.
I've never seen that before.
Right. And, you know, Mundo's a good pick in a Cho'Gath, I think. And so it was kind of sad to see that happen. I expected a little more from him.
I think my take on Someday in that one was Mundo needs to split push. And he has incredible wave clear. He just bullies people out. He's got the strong Q. He never had time. He was always running back to try to keep the team together. We didn't have enough damage to break open the team fights. And so we had to try to call him in to either salvage a team fight that was going wrong or actually put any pressure on them. So he just didn't have the time that he needed to actually make waves in the side lane. So, and that's, I mean, the fact that he was 0-0-0 in a game that we lost around 2 pretty spectacular team fight collapses is just a testament to how solid he is. Like,
it also was not in his favor nor ours in general. The RNG on the Drakes did not go in our favor.
So
you
brutal.
didn't see any clouds or mountains, or you basically just let them stack oceans. And against this team comp, that it's just, it just evaporates the poke because they could just sustain where they are and not have to deal with it. And so Ryu was, I mean, he was playing great. He really was.
Yeah, he's hitting his shots. Yeah.
Yeah, I was, again, just proud of everything I've ever said about Ryu because, he was doing his thing, but not a whole lot of trouble bubbles landing. And when they did, they would QSS or whatever.
Or Tom Kench was there.
Tom Kench was there to use his Devour. And the paddle stars were not all landing, but enough were landing. But just against how those Drakes stacked up, it just wasn't a possibility. And then we saw Pobelter essentially doing the same thing, like getting a really good ult off when they had that 5v5 around the second Baron. He got 2 kills, and that was game.
Oh, that was the one where Anda got dropped first.
Yep.
Yeah, that was. I went back and watched that fight a few times, and because I think we got first kill on that, and so it was 4v5.
It was a complete turnaround, from Pobelter.
It was, and all it was there's a Cho'Gath chomp, and then Pobelter dropped his E, which when Anda went down, it takes you down over time, and then when it went down, it spread to our back line, which was Cody-san. So Cody-san dropped a second later. So I mean, it was a crazy fight, but it's kind of one of those where Cho'Gath has his chomp. It's so hard to do anything with it. It's just a ton of true damage. It's like he's gonna chomp somebody. I don't know. I guess what I'm getting at is like an ideal play there. I think would have been if you get chomped and you're playing against the Malzahar, don't run back. Like just accept that you're gone, because he dropped that E right on our squishiest dude, and that was it. That was basically the end of the game.
Yeah. Well, so we got beat by Big Brother again, and at this point, I'm feeling a little bit like the Raptors must feel about LeBron James.
Can we have Double Lift get traded to China, to somewhere in China, and then maybe we'll have a chance to make it to the championship?
Who knows? At this point, though, they are in our heads, I would say.
Yeah.
And that's a really tough thing to get over, and I hope that we can find a way around it. But they just look better than us at team fighting by, not by this wide margin, but by wide enough that it matters.
And I do think that the way that game shook out, team comp, Drakes, item builds, there was no, our win condition was gone. And so that's one that I don't think we lost it because of misplays. I don't think we lost it because of bad macro. I mean, I guess if you would say that, right, like there are things we could have done, absolutely, but this was very much one of those games where the pieces fell in the right place for Liquid to win it very decisively, and they did, and that's why Liquid's good, right? They do that when they have the opportunity. They don't give people, or at least when we've played them, they don't give us room to make mistakes, or they don't make a lot of mistakes themselves that let people back in.
Yeah,
except for level 1 for whatever reason. That was so bizarre.
Yeah, it was, but we weren't able to capitalize. So let's stop dwelling on the loss and instead celebrate what was a decisive victory.
Yeah, that one felt really good. Can I just say one last thing on this game?
Okay, let's wallow some more.
Let's dwell just a little bit longer. I hope we run into them in playoffs, because I do think it is one of those where for us to really evolve, we're going to have to beat them.
Oh yeah, that is the monkey on our back right now. Yes. And I mean, obviously there's no way around it if we want to win the split. We could lose to them theoretically and still make worlds and whatever, but like at some point that's going to be the mountain we have to climb.
Yep. So I'd say let's just get it done with. Let's just take them out. Like, let's play them first round.
Nancy Kerrigan style or what?
No.
Okay, moving on. Moving on.
No, I'm just saying, like, I don't want to have them be the team that beat us in the finals every year. Can we just not have that? Like, to complete the LeBron thing, you know?
Well, let's all do this. Cross your fingers, and we'll hope for the best. So, okay, Golden Guardians. Golden Guardians, who, despite climbing into contention, surprisingly, they have definitely slipped since then, and they are not looking like the team that was surging just a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Looking at the draft, Someday took Jace and on Sejuani. Ryu took Zoe again. Cody Sun on Zaya, Aphromu Rakan, giving Prawley ultimate confidence and bravado in his pregame interview. Lorlo took Poppy up top. Contracts with Gragas, Mickey on Oriana, definitely on the maligned Varys, and Matt on Braum. We have to talk about the Jace pick, right?
Yes, we do, and we should.
So the Jace pick, was that our final pick?
That was our final pick. It was not the final pick, but it was our final pick.
Yeah, right. So we waited until, it was just Someday. He had to blind pick a top.
Yep.
And he took the very courageous move of taking Jace, which is a very like feast or famine kind of champion. It's either I'm going to take over and completely dominate this lane, or I'm going to have absolutely nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
it's a challenge over to Lola.
He threw the gauntlet,
and
not just in like he did what?
And Lorla responded with the Poppy pick.
Which they were saying is not, it's not basically you're conceding top lane pick. And actually, I mean, the very first thing I have written here is that Someday it was 1, 2, and 1 at 8 minutes and 30 seconds, which I think is Someday's worst stat line of the season. Anyone like that's his worst KDA probably at any point in this whole season.
That might be true. I mean, he did get another kill at the end to finish a little bit better, but yeah.
Oh no, that was just at 8 minutes. I actually didn't see his finishing stat line.
Mm-hmm.
It was what?
2, 2, and 1.
Oh,
one more kill, and then that was it. But do not act like that was indicative of how Someday played.
No,
he smashed that lane.
He did. It was it was a mess up there, dude. That lane was picked apart.
Yeah, and I was surprised that we didn't do something like target Mickey in our first round of bans.
Yeah.
I really thought that we would regret that. I thought the Oriana pick for Mickey was a little bit conservative.
Yes.
But it worked out in the end for us. I was a little worried we didn't really have tanks. But
I feel like Oriana is one of those picks that it's like it's a playmaker in that you get Oriana to a team fight late enough in the game and she can just delete basically an entire team. And
yeah, if they're clustered together, basically game over.
But when you've got somebody like Mickey who's shown that he can make plays, like that's always the concern. It's, it's a home run champion basically. That's not the only way to win with Oriana by far, but that's always kind of the threat. Even if you're really doing well, you get hit with one of those ults and that's trouble.
Yeah, well, in lane, it's a fairly conservative thing,
Yeah, right.
She'll defend the lane well, but as we saw, mid lane did not end up counting for much in this particular game. I thought that Someday was maybe just a little frustrated from the Team Liquid game, and so that's maybe why he was a little bit loose and sloppy. We saw early on we had that dive up top where we went 2 for 2. I thought it was just sloppy. It wasn't, cleanly executed, and then they turn around and camp Someday so that they get another kill off of him. But that's to be expected, right? I think part of his stat line is, I'm on Jace. Yeah. You better stop me.
Right.
Or else I'm going to push all the way into your base by 15 minutes. And so it's understandable to me that his stat line didn't end up being excellent. He had a key save from Anda when the gank came through with Gragas, and he kind of jumped back and stalled just long enough for Anda to get in the right position and secure the kill. I mean, it could have gone worse for him, but he held up.
Yeah. And, I didn't know. So I was listening to, I can't remember what I was listening to, but something recently, and they're talking about kind of the importance of understanding when, I think it was a Hotline League episode recently, the importance of understanding when you're dead and just, accepting that and committing to the play and doing as much good as you can, knowing that you're not going to make it out alive. And the first someday death I saw as that basically of, they called in reinforcements, and he was in deep enough that there was no way out for him. And if he tried to leave, he was just going to give up a free kill. So, 2 deaths is pretty high for him. Especially, in the first 10 minutes, it's very high for him, like I said. But I think he knew what his win condition was, and it was to win lane. And so, I was glad to see that it would have been if they were going to stop the Jace, they had the start to do it, right? They had put him in a bad position early on. He was down kills. But I think that's what makes Someday as good as he is he still dominated that lane, even without a dominant stat line. Like, he still contributed significantly to the win up there.
Yeah. He drew enough attention to free us up to do some other things,
Yeah. So in the same way that the last game was a really interesting gold line, and I think that it showed that even with us losing and, losing some really big macro plays that ultimately sealed the game. In this game, the thing that I thought was so interesting was the exact opposite happened. So from basically 12 minutes to 24 minutes, we got 0 kills. We just won lanes. We just won every lane. So we had 0 kills, and we got 3 turrets and a Drake.
And Shelly.
So it wasn't at all us getting picks, getting one-on-one kills. It was just us winning. We just won this game.
We were just playing League of Legends and winning the lanes. Yeah. And it was kind of again, Anna gets caught out doing Rift Herald and dies, and that was kind of embarrassing. But largely, that during that time frame, it was Shelly getting us not 2 mid turrets, but she took down tier 1 and then got a hit off on tier 2.
Yeah.
We got a Drake around bot while Someday was finishing off a top turret. So everything was kind of clicking at the same time. And Golden Guardians is faced with a decision of which problem do I need to address? Because it's the classic standing in front of a dam and you plug it up with your fingers.
Right.
Bring from somewhere else. That's what we saw develop here.
Yeah. And I think this was now, Double can say that he thinks we are a boring team to watch and all this stuff, but I just feel like this would have been such a frustrating game to play if you're Golden Guardians, because you look around, you're like, we're not dying, so why are we losing so badly? What is happening here? And then when they finally think they have a pick, when they finally think they see one person out of position, they jump on Anda. I think they dropped 2 ults on him, and Cody collapses, Afro collapses, and Ryu comes in from the side, and they get blown up. They lose 2 people. They had a clear as day pick in their mind on Anda, and it's basically what blew the game open for them. So it is one of those where I'm sure they were just so frustrated to have been completely shut out of that game.
Yeah, and what do you do at that point? We got up, we've taken down 6 turrets. They've got 0.
Yeah.
Get another Ocean Drake. We're just preventing their scaling and keeping the pressure up, keeping the speed up. Ryu showing off some really cool mechanics, landing his crazy sleepy bubble after they're trying to dive him for the kill, and
the double flash he hit, dude.
Yeah, and that was that took him to 3-0-5 at that point in the game.
Yeah.
In my mind, Ryu was the player of the week for us.
Yes.
Which not to diminish Someday's contributions.
Yeah.
Because like I said, he pushed top like a madman on Jace. But yeah, Ryu, 2 back-to-back awesome performances, as you mentioned in the week of his Heist episode. So
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. But he was just a beast, and the way that we finished this game was like coming in from all 3 lanes simultaneously.
Yeah, dude. It just tore their base apart.
Is there a better sight than that? You know, like,
right.
All right, how are they going to spread their 5 guys around to handle all 3 breaking into the base at once? I mean, everybody was leading Baroned up minions in, and
just crashed.
We skunked them. We skunked them on turrets. Like, how often does that happen?
Yeah, we won 3 lanes, won the game, and
kept Mickey silent.
Yeah, I mean, Mickey, what was his finishing stat line?
1-1-1.
1-1-1.
Yeah.
So that feels really good. We took Heimer away from Deathly. Somebody should talk about Varus some more. I don't know that I'm the person to do it, but I continue to not be super impressed. I know he's got more than a 50% win rate in professional, so people will keep playing him, but I just think I just feel like he doesn't fit well into a lot of team comps. I don't think that was a problem here, but I don't get excited when I see Cody pick up Varus, is what I'll say.
Yeah, and clearly that same poison was the downfall for Golden Guardians this time. So yeah.
I don't want to see Cody on Poke Champs. I want to see Cody getting into the business, mixing it up with people, throwing feathers around, like ulting out, like
on a Zaya or on a Lucian, maybe.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
That's where I feel like he's at his best.
Yeah. Yep. So with that convincing win out of the way.
Yes.
Now we are looking at the last, few games of the split. What is this team? That's the question. Like, is our sample size large enough now that we can take a look and determine like how we play, how we win, how we lose?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think we can sure take a shot at answering that question. Yeah. Do you have an idea?
So I was using I heard on the dive they mentioned this awesome stats site which is called Oracle's Elixir.
Mm-hmm.
And it has some like pseudo advanced stats for the team for all of NA. And I was taking a look at the categories to kind of see where we rank on things, like average game time, KDA, our early game, our mid and late game, gold leads, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through and I kept sorting through like all the categories, see who's the worst, who's the best, where do we stand on some things. Again, sample size is still kind of small, but I think it's enough to get a good picture of where we are. And we might see some swings back and forth, but.
And when you're just talking about the summer split sample size, right?
Yeah.
Entire split. Yeah.
Right. Which should be the way that we're looking at this,
mm-hmm.
Especially with not having Medios, but having Anda, right?
Right.
So here are some observations from the stats, and then you can tell me what you make of these. If you think, obviously stats don't tell the full story. Plus there's the eye test. So if you want to react to these stats, let me give you some. So in terms of like game length, like minutes that a game goes on, we're actually right in the middle. A team like Liquid, they are the fastest by a lot, and they average a 5-minute quicker game than we do, which is pretty massive. Kills is something we excel in, which is kind of interesting given that we kind of let the game develop mid and late game and really pick our fights carefully.
Yeah.
But we are second overall in total kills, and first and second are way ahead of the pack, so it's not close. We're also the 3rd lowest in deaths, which means that we have the best KDA by about 10%.
Wow.
In the whole region. So our pace is, as we suspected, it's a little bit slower. So even on things that we're good at on a per minute basis, it's not quite as good as everybody else because we tend to stretch out those games.
Yeah.
One of the most surprising things is that our early game rating, and early game rating is basically an estimate of your chance to win a game based on your performance in the first 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And our early game rating is barely below average. So,
and here we're talking about that being a big problem for us.
Right. Now, I think it was probably skewed just a little bit by the Golden Guardians game. But just we're barely below 50%, which is like an even early game, right?
Yeah.
No surprise, our mid and late game rating, which is an estimate of like, how much more or less likely are we to win a game based off of how we play, the mid and end game. We're the second highest to Big Brother, TL. We're very average in terms of gold. So how much gold we earn, how much gold we spend, we're pretty average. We have the second lowest first tower rate. So that's, who takes the tower first. We're the second lowest on that.
Yep.
And we are also the second lowest on first to 3 towers.
Interesting.
Okay. But we do have a lot of priority on drakes. So we, based off of how much we take drakes or control drakes, we have a higher percentage of it. And we're second overall in first Baron percentage.
Yep.
Meaning, of all the teams, we're the second most likely to get that first Baron. And we have the best Baron control rate. So overall,
nice.
That's, something we're putting a lot of priority on. And then the 2 remaining categories are CS and Vision. And we're average on both of those. So hearing that barrage, what are you surprised by? What are you not surprised by? What kind of picture do you think it paints about the team? And do you see any problems?
Well, I think it raises up some of the questions I always have about this team, which is, are we successful because we are good at overcoming a slower start? Or are we successful because we have a slower start? And I think when you ask the second question, it almost seems impossible. Right? Like, how could starting slow, giving up towers, how could those things make you better? Like, isn't it always better to just not do that? And I think that's the question that's worth talking about, because I really don't know. And I think we talk about needing to fix those things, but like, I think I was thinking about this last week. The in chess, right? The queen trade or the queen sacrifice, right? You sacrifice one of your players or pieces to put yourself in a better position overall. And I think there has to be an equivalent in League. I don't know that I could tell you what it is, or that I know enough to say, like, to break it down the way we play and say what it is. But I think you can look at those numbers, right, and say, okay, we give up first turret almost more often than anyone else in the league. And the first to 3 turrets was actually really surprising to me to hear, because I would think of it as like, yeah, but we start to steamroll or snowball this thing. So
no, we don't. According
even knowing that, right? Like, maybe we don't. But I think that the Baron stat is what's so telling, because
exactly
we know what you cannot give up, right? Which is Baron, because that's where this game gets out of control, especially right now, the way things are set up. So if I had to try to break that down and like, this is what I'll have in my mind as a hunch, it's, we know strategically the value of things, and we, I think, better than other people and better than other teams, we don't panic. We don't let one bad play or one disadvantage turn into disadvantage elsewhere in other bad plays. And we keep our eye on the prize, which is Baron. And I think we went through that.
Yeah. And so, to kind of respond to your thought about, what could you sacrifice? If that's indeed what's going on, is that we're making some sacrifice to make sure that we have a shot at the later thing. I mean, maybe it's vision. Mm-hmm. Maybe, we're dropping kills to clearing vision and placing our own vision, but we show up pretty average in those stats. Maybe it's a case where the team likes to make observations about how their opponents are fighting, mm-hmm. and kind of learn what they're doing as they go along, and be in a position to play into those advantages and disadvantages the right way in their late game? I don't know. The simplest answer to me is, like you were saying, we know what Baron is worth. And so that's the one thing we want to make sure we don't lose. And that's what we, put all our effort into, which begs the question, and it sounds stupid, right? But is Baron OP?
No,
it's supposed to be. Yeah. It's supposed to be, but is it OP?
Yes. I think I remember them. It's definitely been in this patch, or in this season rather, in 8.
It's harder to kill. Yeah.
Harder to kill, but I think that the buffs are more and more significant, and they've weakened towers and all these things. I mean, it better be one that they're talking about, because if it is, then obviously it needs to be adjusted. I think if it is, does that mean that we are a less successful team? Probably. If we're one of the teams enjoying the Baron buff more than anyone else, then
that's what I'm saying. Like, maybe we are the proof that Baron is a little bit too powerful, and we just know that and are comfortable with living that way. Yeah.
I mean, it very well could be. And I think, to kind of continue the analogy, right? If you're overextending, or if you're pouring resources into a lane to try to knock down first turret, like, I think if you're a team preparing to play 100 Thieves, you got to ask yourself, how much do we value that? How much do we value first turret, extra gold, right? And it would be really interesting to go back and watch that and break it down and see, when they get first turret, are we getting some deep vision in? Like, are we doing things that allow us to start making macro moves toward Baron, even if it is 5, 6, 7 minutes away? That's the stuff that I think would be interesting to see and break down.
Yeah, so maybe that's something that we need to keep an eye on as we watch these games. Now, I will say, if you're Riot and if you're running a league, I think it's kind of in your best interest to keep Baron, incredibly powerful, because otherwise games are going to be too predictable.
Yeah, right.
If theoretically, if you have, something approximating a 50-50 chance as a team to grab Baron, then that means you have a chance to win the game, even if you're getting rolled. And we've seen games turn on Baron steals. It's possible, and it makes it exciting and unpredictable. So maybe we're just enjoying that benefit. It's entirely possible. It's not to say that we're not good at the other things. I think we're a very good team fighting squad. I think we're very calm and composed in the mid to late game. I think we make very good decisions during that time. And I think we weigh the risks and make the right calculated risks. But it kind of, I'm wondering if we're also benefiting from an exciting advantage that Riot has blessed us with.
It's possible. And I would add to what you just said, that the things that we're good at contribute to us getting Baron as often as we do, right? Like, we set up well for Baron. We initiate Baron well. We get picks that allow us to get better Baron positioning, or to take Baron.
Probably most importantly, we don't often make a poor call to try and take Baron.
Right.
It is very rare, at least this split, that we get caught out trying to take Baron.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, even so, to go to the heist, that Vlad, remember that Vlad.
Holy cow.
The Vlad, I don't even know what to call that dive. I guess, what is it called when you teleport into the middle of a team and blow them up?
Yeah. And you use the pool.
Yeah. Right. So even that.
Maybe we should call that a Ryu.
Yes. A Ryu. Big boss, I think, is what I might start calling him. The big boss. They'll probably call him. Yeah. But it's so going back to Baron, even when we aren't the best position there, we have players who are thinking about how to minimize that potential disruption.
Yeah.
So I think, boil it all down, we're a team that plays incredibly well around the Baron.
And that's a much larger advantage than perhaps we initially thought. So.
It's much larger than playing very well against first turret, I would argue.
Yeah. I'll give you that. All right. Well, since you brought it up, let's talk about the heist for a little bit before we wrap up.
Yes.
The heist was centered around Ryu this week, and it was about time, man. I think he has been. I mean, Someday is obviously having an MVP caliber split, right?
Yeah.
And I think the unsung backup is Ryu.
Yes.
I said it maybe the first episode of this podcast that we did in week 2, where a lot of people were really down on Ryu, and I was saying like, no, this dude is playing well and he's valuable, and he has done me the great service of making that take look very good as the split has gone on. I mean, in this Golden Guardians game, he was 3-0-6, so he had our best line.
Yes.
I believe so. He was 2-1-3 versus Liquid, and I have a note that says, and the one was some BS. he barely got taken down. So he deserves having the spotlight on him.
Yes.
At this time.
Well, and he doesn't want the spotlight on him.
Yeah, and I thought it was the funniest thing because like the opening is basically him saying he doesn't think he's doing so well this
I know. Yeah.
And I'm sitting here every week watching him like, yeah, Ryu, that's right, man. Like, oh man, it was crazy to hear him say that. I mean, I think it's humility. I think he knows he can play better, but still.
Part of it is I wonder too how much of this is just built into. I think any competitive game, right? You look at the KDA. And I know he's a more mature player than to look at that, but I think, if what he's sensing is that he doesn't feel like he's putting on the kind of show that he has in the past or is capable of, right? He might know, because he said, I'm not playing that well, but I'm not having a bad split either. And I think for somebody who is very humble and who doesn't seek out the spotlight, I think it's actually saying quite a lot for him to say, like, I'm doing pretty well though. But it might just be that he's not our flash player, right? And that when people look at this team, and I'm guilty of this from earlier this split, they probably wouldn't look at him and say like, yeah, he is indispensable. We have to have Ryu. Like when, think back to Rift Rivals, we were like, Someday over Ryu? Like, are we sure about that? And I think we'd still say that, but at the time it was kind of like, why not just drop Ryu? And, like if we need to make some moves here, like that seems like a pretty clear move to make. Yeah. And I would say that at this point, it definitely does not.
Yeah, I think for sure we are at best as presently constituted. Like,
yes,
our best possible team that we can put forward has Ryu and has Anda.
I agree.
I thought it was interesting to see the dynamic between Ryu and Someday.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know that they have a good relationship. Having that, Korea thing in common with each other and being just that person to kind of understand where you're coming from and be able to freely communicate with, that is a massive, massive deal. But with a player like Someday, who is making the most money on 100 Thieves and is starring in this split, across the whole region, it's so interesting that he still has that respect for Ryu and he's willing to listen to him more than perhaps our American sensibilities would suggest.
Yeah. No, I did think that was super interesting. And you talked about this earlier too, that just the importance of having both of them on our squad so that and Ryu talked about it, right? How hard it was to be the only Korean player on a team. So if there's a hope of this lasting for beyond this season, I think that the hope probably lies there. And these two guys, because clearly they get along. I think it's awesome. And, it's one of those where a new organization, how well can people really mesh right off the bat? I kind of think we're seeing that, right? Like with a lot of these players, it seems like they've just fallen right into a very comfortable rhythm with each other. And that's worth a lot.
Yeah. We're still in year 1. And that's a good thing to always remember.
Right.
But yeah, like probably had those comments that kind of were just the most interesting part of these episodes. Cause not only did he bring that up, how like, Someday maybe holding back on criticisms or his opinions or whatever, but he also called his play style cerebral rather than mechanical.
Right.
And seeing the way that he has played like Zoe and Vlad, it's like, really? I mean, not to say he's not cerebral with his play, but man, he seems pretty mechanically sound to me. I don't know what I'm missing.
I think it gets back to an earlier point that we've talked about, which is like there have been a few plays that have revealed themselves to me as Ryu being kind of like a puppet master, like pulling strings, little things where you realize like he just makes a play himself. And it's not that he does it through his mechanical brilliance, although I don't doubt that in any way. He just outthinks the other team in small ways. And I think that's got to be a really hard thing to play against as the opposing team. Because it's easier to predict mechanical mastery, harder to predict somebody, flashing over a wall where you didn't expect to see them, or, you catch them in a river and then it turns out that they've lined up their jungler to be waiting for you behind a wall.
Yeah. You know what? That's a really good point, because as you're saying that, I guess my thought was another way to say someone has great mechanics is to say they don't make a mistake.
Right.
It's like their play, like if you're expecting your opponent to play perfectly and it's like, I can't do this because this will happen. Mm-hmm. Someone who's mechanically sound will make sure that they punish you for everything and they don't, they don't miss anything that they should make. Yep. And so from that sense, yeah, okay, I'm willing to be persuaded here. The one thing I know though is that he is very valuable, and I have been happy to see opinion on him turn. Yes. In on like Reddit and stuff, which Reddit is Reddit, it can be toxic, but there's definitely more respect for Ryu, and he's earned it, and he is I'm proud to have him on the team, just like someday. For sure. I love this team. Yeah, I love the guys on this team. Like it's the Heist does a good job of making me care about them as people. It's a pleasure to watch.
For sure. And we've talked about this too, right? I think I'm at the point where, for me, the Heist does a really, really good job of humanizing the players. Mm-hmm. In my mind, it doesn't build them up to the point that they're all I care about. And I think that's kind of evidenced by the way I felt about Medios leaving, which was, oh, that's kind of a bummer. Like, he seemed like a good dude. I wish him the best of luck, And I think now, if someday were to leave, or Ryu were to leave, I would be really bummed out, but I wouldn't be mad at the organization, and I wouldn't be mad at them, right? It would just be like I would look forward to watching them again, right? Because it kind of feels like they're one of our own, So everywhere we'd see them go,
you're rooting for them still.
Yeah, rooting for them, because I feel like they are good guys, and I think that's valuable.
Well, not to be the rainy cloud, and I think I mentioned this before, but someday is the player that's only on contract through the end of this year.
Yeah,
he's obviously going to be a sought-after player, and going to be very expensive to keep him around. Yeah. So maybe it is a situation where we need to brace ourselves for that news come November. I hope not. I hope he'll stay.
But if he goes, you'll be watching the someday highlight reels from wherever.
Absolutely.
Like I'm going to dial those in for sure. It's going to be awesome.
100%. He's earned my fandom the way he's played. So that leaves me with one other point about the Heist.
Yep.
Because I agree, it does a good job humanizing the players. I would argue that, and this is kind of a weird observation to make about this series, but just the way that the Heist started, it really seemed like they were telling this incredible story of the formation of this team and the journey of the team. These days, it feels less to me about storytelling. Mm-hmm. They have, it's the player focus has been good because it has, gotten us to look at them. But at the same time, I just miss the underlying threads of what's happening with the team as we move throughout the season. And not only that, not only within the context of LCS play, but also honestly, Nadeshot telling the story of everything that they are doing as an organization. Mm-hmm. In my opinion, I still think the Heist is better off with more of him. Yeah. I wish that we could get more of him being the storyteller for the 100 Thieves. And in my mind, it's got to be a conscious decision that he pulled back from his involvement with that. I mean, he's clearly doing other things right now. He's still, at the games, he's still the owner, he's still whatever, but he is involved much less in the heist, and that is by choice. And I wish that we could just work him in. I miss some of those underlying threads that make me pull for the organization.
I wonder. I feel like in recent weeks and months, I've noticed that it seems like there's more of that happening in his own personal channel. Right. And I wonder how much of the decision is, the heist, like, because when the heist started, 100 Thieves was the League of Legends team. They were one and the same. And so I think you couldn't talk about the League squad without also talking about 100 Thieves and the formation of the organization and them getting started and moving into the house and setting up their offices. I mean,
but now we have Fortnite. Now we have Crash.
Yeah, now we have Fortnite. Like there are just other things. And we have merch now. Like the company is doing more and more, and Nade then is also doing more and more, just by definition. He's getting back into the professional play as well with Fortnite. So I do wonder if it's just over time. Like it's almost like they need to do a rebranding, right? Of like the 100 Thieves channel right now is, I'd say, it still tips toward League focus. They almost need to have just like, maybe it's playlists or something, but I think what used to be for us the 100 Thieves content is now going to become 100 Thieves League of Legends content as the organization grows.
I don't think you're wrong about that. I just think that most of this is coming from a different angle. Like what I really think it is that he is experienced with years and years of vlogging, and he's really charismatic, and he tells a great story, and he's great on camera. And then he brings with him this following of millions of people. I mean, he's got like 3 million subscribers or something on YouTube and that many followers on Twitter and all that stuff. So he brings with him this massive audience, and you can almost feel the energy behind the movement, when he's talking about it. And you contrast that with League players who, quite frankly, are not great on camera. They're not great in interviews. Yeah. And while it's fun to see them and get that look into their lives and their personalities, and it makes us fans of them, it's not the same kind of like, this is a compelling story. Right. And I think that's more the angle I mean, where I miss his involvement. So
no, I totally get it. One other thing to leave us on before we start wrapping up. I get a sense that League, especially in NA, more and more people are talking about how it's kind of in decline. Mm-hmm. And I think as an organization, you do need to hedge your bets, right? Like, I don't think you can put all of your eggs in one basket. I would be shocked if they didn't try to get an Overwatch team in the next year.
I think that's too much money. The Overwatch spots are going for $30 to $60 million. That is a lot.
Yeah, so they just added 2 expansion teams, right? Mm-hmm. So, but like that's that their numbers are insane, and leagues aren't, like, they're still up there. It's still, but they're no longer the lock and a sure thing. And I think that this season has been tough, right? There's been so much change. The meta is completely crazy. So, I don't know, but the amount of times I've heard other people who are a lot closer to the organization in the game talk about how League is, it's kind of the numbers are trending down. That's dollars for them. That's business, right? They've got to be thinking about that, and not that they're gonna change that fact, although I guess they could in some small ways. But they just have to think about, like, what does that mean for us as a business?
Yeah, especially when you consider how much you have to pay a player for League of Legends versus salaries for other sports, which are, by all accounts, significantly less, or to pay someone to stream Fortnite or whatever, which is
right,
another thing altogether. But I will say that I'm a fan of this organization. I'm primarily here to watch League, but I will continue to keep my eye on the other things they do, especially with the merch, because very impressed with this run of stuff, and we're gonna keep being thieves, man.
Indeed. And I'll say too, I've played Overwatch. I cannot get excited about watching Overwatch. I don't know if you tried to watch it. I watched the finals on ESPN. what did you think? I mean, we can talk about it later, but I'm still in. I still want more league. I still think it has potential to be the sport of kind of the primary esport for many years to come. But
well, we'll have to see how it shakes out.
Yep.
In front of us, though, is a much smaller deal.
Yes.
And that is our next week games against Echo Fox on Saturday and Cloud9. Jordan, your thoughts?
Do you have the okay, Cloud9 is actually a huge concern.
You want the standings? Cloud9 is at 7-7, now tied in 4th.
And they've had, I think, 2 back-to-back 2-0 weekends.
Yeah, and Echo Fox is sitting right underneath us by virtue of the tiebreaker. So we're both 9-5. We have the head-to-head advantage over them. So technically, we are in second.
Man, okay, this is gonna be crazy. We could, if we 0-2 this, I'm not saying we'll do. If we 0-2 this, we could end the weekend tied with Cloud9, who was in last place not that long ago. That team's on the rise. They are on fire. I think we can take Echo Fox. I think we've done it in the past. So I'll give us the win on Echo Fox, and I think that that Cloud9. I don't think people are underestimating them any longer. I think people have just realized that they've got it figured out. Right? They've figured out a lot of things since they were at the bottom of the table. So I'll give us a 1-1 week.
I'm going to be a little bolder. I'm going to call it 2-0 week for us. I think Echo Fox is it's a little bit tumultuous over there, and while they are up high in the standings, I think they are definitely figuring out some new things over there. So I think our calm demeanor can kind of get us around the Echo Fox game. And then with Cloud9, I think that 100 Thieves has kind of had Cloud9 figured out in the past, and I think that's going to continue, especially because they are so hot right now. I think they're going to get a lot of attention in this upcoming week. So
this is a huge week for us.
It is. This week has a lot of implications on playoff standings, but I'm going to be confident in us. I think Someday is going to have a great weekend, and I think Afro is maybe going to have to make some plays to kind of take the game back over for us, as we've seen him do. But his leadership will be there, and Someday will be ready to burst out. So I'm going to give us a 2-0.
All right. The roles have flipped. You've got the optimism going for us this week. I hope it works out.
Yeah. Well, that'll do it for us this weekend then. Thank you for everyone who has watched. Thank you to 100 Thieves for making an awesome product that we are all hyped up about. Please remember to subscribe to us. Talk to us on Twitter if you'd like. We are responsive there, and we're open to feedback from everybody. Remember, we are not league experts, nor do we pretend to be, but we are massive 100 Thieves fans, and we're looking to talk to more of you. So,
absolutely. All right. Have a good week, and we will talk to you in less than a week.
That's right.
We'll be back.
All right. All right. See you next time.
Yep.